Hey, this is Joel Oney at the J Money Studio in the heart of the Buckeye State. And I want to personally welcome you to today's episode of the Steel Kings podcast with my good friends Jared Ledford and Eric Olson, better known to you as the Steel Kings. Be sure to check out jmoneyllc.com for financing solutions for your buildings. And now, let's get back to the Steel Kings podcast.
Hey, it's Jared and Eric. We are the Steel Kings, back for episode number 3 of the Steel Kings podcast. Right. We are back. Going to talk some things today. Eric, you're pretty excited. We were talking a little bit offline, and you were pumping me up, man. Tell me what's going on.
I've got a way I'm collecting leads, and it seems like literally every year around February 10th or 11th, that I just get, and probably pretty much everybody else, just get bombarded with messages. Yeah. Let me get a quote. Can you do this? Can you do this? Show me this. Man, I'm so deep. I've had 28 messages, I think I counted. Got one I'm closing in Nebraska, a little 24 by 30. And then this guy's asking about framing for barn dominiums, wondering if we can do the frame for it. Oregon guy apparently owns a property in Oregon and Washington. I'm like, okay. So I'm like, nice. I'm geeked up because when the middle of February starts hitting, that's when everyone starts kicking tires. And
yeah,
I mean, nothing's
funny,
more
man.
fun than closing a deal, man.
It's really good for taxes, right? So we're all looking forward to getting our taxes filed. Maybe you get a refund, maybe you don't. This year, I think I'm going to get a really small return. So I'm actually feeling pretty good about that. But that means at the end of the day that there's a lot of customers out there who are looking, who now have maybe some free cash. The people who are looking maybe end of last year that you weren't able to close, we're reaching back out. We're touching cold leads. We're going after those potential hot customers for the spring of 2025. So, as always, we sell steel buildings and wood sheds here, Atlantic coastline up through the Midwest, and metal buildings just like the one you see behind Eric. Really nationwide, man. We're up to 45 states pretty comfortably. We can probably tuck a building just about anywhere. I will tell you, if you need help with a manufacturer, if you need some advice, we're available. I'm Jared at DaytonBarnes.com on an email address. He is Eric at DaytonBarnes.com on an email address. I can tell you, if you're out there and you're listening to me and you are a steel manufacturer or partner in the Dakotas, call to action for you guys. We need you. We'd love to have some better coverage in North and South Dakota. We'd love to get some solid coverage in the Maine area. I mean, we're really down to just a handful of states. Yeah, Northeast is pretty rough. So we've got the Mid-Atlantic, we've got the Midwest, we've got the West, we've got the Southeast and Southwest, pretty much all covered, ready to go. But I'm feeling pretty good. How about you, Eric? I mean, going into another week, another sales week, strong. Right?
we talked about the thriving part in podcast too, about when we're the slower months we like to build, and then and it's almost like we spoke it into existence. The 30 plus messages I've got in the past 24 hours is just outstanding. So it kind of seems like we've turned a corner, like with episode 3, and hopefully episode 4 I've closed a couple deals and can kind of share some of those experiences with everybody too. But I feel great. Feel great. It's Valentine's Day tomorrow.
Yeah, so you guys are probably going to be listening to this. You guys are going to be listening to this sometime middle March, last part of March. So we're shooting February the 13th today. It's kind of a gloomy, dreary day here in Ohio, but tomorrow's Valentine's Day, and it's always good when Valentine's Day falls on a Friday. I feel like that's an advantage that doesn't always go your way. It's hard when Valentine's Day falls in the middle of the week for sure. So
that's right.
Yeah, that's right. So I think we're having a hair of difficulty on Eric's stream side. So I'm going to keep talking for a few, and we may end up editing this out in post. We may not. We're going to talk a little bit today. There you go, Eric. We're going to talk a little bit today about what we do as a business. Everybody knows that we're in the wood sheds and steel buildings. But we kind of want to show you guys a behind the scenes, kind of a little sneaky peek, if you want to say that. We've spent a lot of time this last year really focusing on our why. Why are we doing this? How we're going to get to where we want to go, really setting out the course. No different than if you're going from point A to point B. We are trying to figure out the best course, the best path, the best walking strategy. In a lot of cases, me and Eric like to run more than walk. Figuratively, I don't run at all. Eric can probably run, but not me. But yeah, I mean, we want to enter this year. We're trying to pay it forward a little bit. So for those of you who are sitting on a woodshed lot, which is a majority of the people that are listening to this podcast right now, if you're a shed hauler, if you are a manufacturer, never a bad time to start trying to sell some steel buildings. And that's what we want to talk to you a little bit about today. But I wanted to pull up Eric, and I hope it's all right with you, man. I think we can. Our friends are here with us right now, I feel like. So let's maybe try something new on our Steel Kings podcast here. I'm going to show you just a little bit.
Look at that pretty little thing.
Yeah. And for those of you that are not watching along, we're not going to go into deep dives on this. But for those of you that are watching rather than listening, we're Dayton Barnes and all steel buildings. We're pretty transparent about that. We're very forward facing. Obviously, we use SEO. We use a lot of different strategies and avenues to navigate our website and things like that. But I wanted to show you a little bit from a wood perspective. 3D designs always help. If you're not using a 3D designer, there are a lot of really good 3D design companies out there. Eric, how do you utilize the 3D design process to sell a woodshed? What's your process look like?
Well, I'll tell you what, I think from a on lot perspective, our guys required you go out and meet the person with the brochure or something to hand them, give them an action item right off the bat, introduce yourself, and I think just from a general talking standpoint, a person's like, you want to break the ice and develop some sort of super short-term trust and relationship building there, with the thought that you want them to come inside, not so that you can hound them with something, but because you have this at your disposal, and this is a nice looking shed here, and color options, and I'm kind of looking for a reason to let's get them inside. Let's put some colors on it. Let me see if we can fit that door where you want it. Let's see what kind of capabilities we are, because it kind of takes the pressure off of me having to know every answer right on cue. Different color tones and kind of give them a little bit more of a professional vibe, because I think trust is big, because most people haven't bought a shed before, like, in their life. And so and most people that buy a shed are like 40s, 50s, 60 years old. They're going into it kind of hesitant anyway, unless they bought one before, obviously. So I think the technology is really like icing on the cake. I mean, look at that. This is you can even take a look. You add some interior stuff like a bench or and real man and God, I can't. I know we said it last week, but I love Sheds Direct's builder. Honestly,
Yeah.
they are.
Yeah, we give our weekly shout out to our shed partner, Sheds Direct. They'll supply you with wood sheds here, kind of mid-Atlantic up through the Midwest. Those guys are really fair to us, and they'll be fair to you if you want to become a dealer in your local area. We utilize Sheds Direct 3D Builder. We've worked alongside the guys at Shed Pro. If you're looking for a 3D designer, or you're a 3D designer company and you want to get out to a new clientele, we're always looking for advertisers too, right? So if you've got a product out there that you feel like, hey, these guys might be able to benefit from it, we'll take a look at it. And we're happy to kind of rep your stuff. We don't necessarily need payback for that, but we're always looking for sponsors to help us out. I agree with you, Eric. I'm super happy with what we've got with the Shed Builder. It is a super nice platform. It works well. It really seems to do the trick as far as, whether you're working on a PC or Mac, whatever you're working on, obviously we can do something like this where, let me exit this out. We can screenshot this building, all American shed 10 by 16. And now all of a sudden we've got a working screenshot or a working presentation piece for that customer, and take that actual mock-up and use it as a sales tool. I think this is something that's come a long way in the last probably 3 years or so, most everybody that's selling at a high volume has some sort of 3D design and configurator, whether it be through their manufacturer or through a partner like Idea Room, Shed Hub, Sensei, something like that. Wouldn't you say so, Eric? I mean, most of the people that we are competing against and most of the people in this space are utilizing some sort of 3D configurator, right?
I think the big players, yeah. I still think
Yeah,
it's underused, but I think that most, if you're doing any sort of substantial sales, you are definitely using this as a tool um, to design and finalize a person's order. Honestly, I mean, there's
that's
no,
right. That's right.
I can't even imagine. I honestly can't even imagine trying to sell someone a shed unless they just want the one that's there.
Yeah,
Without this, to be truthful, because this checks your work too to make sure you got everything on there, so you can kind of comb
yeah.
over the order with them. Like, okay, we wanted this 6 inches from here, and um, oh yeah,
Yeah,
so
for me, it's one of those things where it really starts to take shape for the customer when you can provide them exactly what they might be seeing in their backyard or, on their property, something like that. I think it's hard, especially. So one of the things that we do pretty well here at Dayton Barnes is we sell pretty much a majority of our buildings at this point online. We
yeah,
do not meet or see a lot of these customers, and I think that's probably another call
like
to
it all,
action for those of you that are sitting on a shed lot or maybe selling from home. um, if you're not in the online marketplace, whether it be through Meta or maybe a small Google ad spend or something like that, you're not going to be competitive right now. Unfortunately, in this marketplace, it is as cutthroat as it's ever been. And I think that's probably one of the things too that we want to give back. So if we're calling to action on, hey, you're a wood dealer or someone who's selling wood sheds, we want you to maybe consider selling metal, but we also want you to consider, other avenues of advertising. Consider different ways to be successful in selling the product that you're doing well selling already. Because I can tell you, I think it's a next level user that's listening to this podcast anyway. You know what I
yeah,
mean, Eric? I think
yeah,
we've got a high class clientele right off the rip that are like, I know I not only really like selling sheds, right? But I really like the industry as a whole. That's why I'm listening to a podcast on a random Monday with these two guys
yeah,
and,
yeah,
considering
yeah.
additional options like steel
Yeah,
buildings, right?
in a next level, from like okay, so let's talk to the guy at the shed lot by himself. This is your best friend. I mean,
Yeah.
knowing it, and then this is your best friend to close it from a bit.
Yeah.
Let's say you own a couple locations, and you've got, let's say you're using a back end system. So this can actually become a tool for you to let customers build their own thing,
That's
and
right.
then you can plug it into your back end system. And I believe that you can just have them email it too. But we've got ours. We've got ours connected to our backend system, and they just come in as a wood lead. We send it to where it needs to go. It's got all the design link and everything. So, um,
Yeah.
that
But
is another level. I think most people actually don't think of it that way. I think most people just use it as what I said from a sales
yeah. Yeah.
perspective, but you know,
Yeah. I mean,
from a
lead
marketing
gen
standpoint, it's good too.
lead gen is a passion of mine. I know that that's something that you've always been passionate about too, but I feel like I brought a really laser focus from our barn's perspective of we have to generate the leads to sell buildings, right? So when you go to Dayton Barnes's website, imagine if you're on your own website, we're forward facing with wood sheds and metal buildings and garages and carports, all of that. But we have our 3D shed builder linked directly from our manufacturer onto our homepage. Same thing with our 3D designer for our buildings. We do those up here in the design and price now button, and that'll load that bad boy right up. And here's another quick plug for our guys over at Idea Room. We've been with them a long time, like 6 years, over 6 years.
Gosh,
They get a lot of flack. So I know a lot of you guys, the
I
shed
like them.
sales professional, I like them too. So the shed sales professionals group kind of blew up this week, Eric. I don't know if you're in there or not, but we got to get you in there. It's a Facebook group
Get
with
me in
a lot
there.
of different shed sales professionals, and there was some discussion about Idea Room, and I have to make a comment. So again, take this with a grain of salt. It's February the 13th here. You're probably hearing this mid to late March.
Yeah,
There's no guarantee that I don't think anything was really negative, but it does cost money to make money. And if you'd like to make a little bit more money, you might want to throw a few $100 or a couple $1,000, depending on what your expected return on that give out is. and do something like a 3D designer. This is one that I did recently for a customer who came in through our website. For those of you that are listening along, we're looking at a 60 wide gabled end by 60 long commercial truss style building. Kind of like an oversized commercial carport with a couple of lean-tos. In this case, both 20 wide lean-tos. There's a short side and there's a long side. But, this is just something that we toy around with. This is probably the tool that we use the most in our sales process for metal buildings. And the reason we wanted to bring that up is because, again, if you're a wood sales professional in whatever aspect, we want to draw the coalescent line between wood and steel. We want to show you just how unique each product line is, but how they're really married, right, Eric? I mean, that's really what we're here to do is be good spokesmen for the industry. For those of you that are listening, probably have had at least somewhat of an experience with steel buildings. And if you're not selling them, give us some feedback on why. We'd love to know why you're not selling steel buildings, but we would honestly probably be the first ones to tell you, you're really missing out.
I think you're missing out.
I mean, you're really missing out. Yeah, you're really missing out. So, like I said, our buddies over at Idea Room put together this 3D designer for us. It features, our Dayton Barnes logos. It features all kinds of different pricing breakdowns from multiple manufacturers across the United States. And again, we'll give a quick plug to our preferred guys over at American Steel. Here in the Midwest, we're in Ohio. We do a lot of business with American Steel. We work with Carolina Carports, Eagle Carports, some of the major players in the industry. And we're lucky to have them as partners, in my opinion. I mean, what do you think, Eric?
I've shout out Brandon Falls. He's been, we went through a kind of and if you've been in the industry for some time, kind of what happened with a company and used to be called All Steel Carports, and we got bailed out on some orders with American Steel, and man, Brandon Falls saved the day. We've known him for 5 years now, and I think we're one of their top dealers in the country. They sent us a nice gift to put up at the shop for being, which is lovely, honestly. Great partner. We scratch, they scratch. They've never not held their word. I mean, like everything, it's pretty. Probably the most consistent company from a sales to install, quality versus price, customer service versus kind of like what we're doing on the sales side.
Certainly from our perspective, right? I mean, we love the guys. We're going to do a relatively good job of not name dropping too often. I think we've been a little bit wordy about dropping free plugs for people today, but that's okay, because again, we want to give you guys we want to give you guys the tools of the trade, right? So again, we're full transparency. We're going to talk about the things we like and don't like. And right now, I mean, honestly, I can tell you on this particular episode of the Steel Kings podcast, February 13th, it's 2:18 p.m. in the afternoon. We have one official sponsor, and that sponsor is J Money. I forgot to give them a plug at the beginning of the show, so I'm going to give them a plug right now. Those guys over at J Money, talk to Joel or Katie. They are happy to help you with your contract and financing needs, whether it be a woodshed, a steel building. Those guys are just fantastic for that. They have absolutely helped us revolutionize our business through offering direct financing to customers. So I want to talk about wordy. You. No, not you, brother. I'm dropping. We've dropped Idea Room, Carolina Carports, Eagle, American Steel. I'm right there with you. And trust me, we wouldn't be talking about anybody if we didn't love them so much. And that's a fact. We love all of our partners. We are lucky and blessed to have the partners that we have. And, I think I try to tie everything that I'm going to talk to you guys about on the podcast as kind of a call to action. And I think that sometimes you get stuck in the mud with, well, I am only going to sell for this manufacturer and this manufacturer only. They are the only ones that work for me. And then the manufacturer wants to kind of keep that. If you have a good relationship with your manufacturer, they're never going to turn down an order. What I can tell you about the partnerships that we have, and I agree with you, Eric, wholeheartedly, we are lucky and blessed to be working with reputable companies that have been around a long time in an industry that has been around a long time and honestly still feels fresh and new kind of every day I'm working in it. There's new companies, there's new sales companies, there's new manufacturers, but these particular companies that we're working with have been around a long time. And I think if you really are looking for a metal manufacturer, do your due diligence. Look at Better Business Bureau, look at Google reviews, look for customers' feedback on social media. That's going to make your life
let me
easier.
jump in there. There was a
Man.
guy that we know, and not going to say names, but he owns a mower business locally, and he was selling a boatload of wood sheds,
Yep.
and
I know who you're talking about.
I wouldn't. I want to say right. I don't think he had a bad taste in his mouth about metal buildings. I think he just, like you've used the word plug. He didn't have a plug for him, and
Yeah.
we somewhat did some. We did a couple deals, and then I think ended up just plugging him in with a manufacturer himself, and
did you know
that guy got some demos in his front lawn of his business, and man, did it. I mean,
and we are not slowing down.
But he was stoic about it. I remember we're talking to him. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit more on that. But I think he was a little more like, no, it's going good. I'm fine selling 25 sheds a month. I'm like, okay.
Working diligently,
you can have like $5,000 more or $8,000 more. Why would you say no to that?
Websites, Google and Meta tag tracking that measures the traffic to your website and social media pages, CRM setup and full automation build-outs, lead funnel integration, and so much more. Worried about whether or not we can serve you? Don't be. Shed Geek Marketing works with manufacturers ranging from $1 million a year in sales up to $80 million a year in sales. There is no manufacturer too big or too small. Remember, marketing is an investment that should be making you money. That's why nearly 50 companies have decided to work with Shed Geek Marketing. So for more information, go to www.shedgeek.com and submit some basic information, and we'll reach out with a discovery call and patiently walk you through how we can best serve you. Thank you for your time and look forward to working with you.
So
we've gone through different iterations. We've gone through different iterations, right? On what Dayton Barnes is doing, what we're doing to try to scale the business. So a couple of years ago at this point, we were working, and you guys know the history by now. You guys have listened to episode 1 and 2. If you haven't, go back and check them out. We talk a little bit more at length about where we are, where we came from, that kind of a thing. But what I can tell you in this particular instance is this is a guy who we really liked. He was a personal referral. We kind of knew, 6 degrees of separation from this guy, but super nice guy, had a really nice kind of, like Eric said, lawnmower company. And honestly, there are probably some people listening right now in this same type situation where you're selling for a national brand or a semi-national, regional brand, if you will, and you're doing well selling wood sheds, and you're thinking to yourself, can I sell metal buildings? The answer to that question is yes. I mean, you need to, in my opinion. It's a complementary product, and some people just don't want a wood shed. Some people might just want a 12 by 20 carport, just a roof and some legs. Some people might want a 30 by 40 by 15 metal building. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you need to have as many options as you can to be as well versed in the space as possible, in my opinion. Now, if you're happy selling wood sheds and you don't ever want to look at a steel building, great. Keep listening to us because we're going to talk a lot about wood sheds too. That's a fact. But what ended up happening with this gentleman was we were actually going to try to create kind of a quasi Dayton Barnes, another Dayton Barnes location utilizing this gentleman's property. And everything was going well, but we honestly kind of came together, Eric and I, and felt like, man, this guy might be able to do it better just by himself. And we really had to weigh the options of, did we want to expel our bandwidth to try to help this guy grow his business that was already, number one, successful, number two, exactly where he wanted it to be. And we were good stewards to him, and I think good stewards to ourselves by not taking it further than it needed to. We helped him broker a couple deals, got him a new manufacturer for steel. He had been, like a lot of you guys, burned by his previous manufacturer. I think maybe 5-6 years ago at this point, he had been selling some carports for a national, well-known carport company, and it just didn't work out. Don't know if it was his process or the manufacturer. I can't speak to that. He just wasn't happy with the end result for his customers. We got him hooked up with American Steel, and really the rest is kind of history for that guy. He's still selling wood sheds. He's a competitor of ours, and we wish him all the best because, that's who we are. We don't go after people. We're not looking to cut anybody's legs out from under them. We want to be competitive, right? He is a competition to us, and he knows it, right? And we have a lot of fun kind of going back and forth. But, it's one of those situations where kind of looking at everything in its initial form when Eric brought it to me, it looked great. And once he and I kind of sought it a little bit more and went in and kind of deep dive, we were like, yeah, this maybe isn't for us. So, I think that kind of lines up with what you were talking about, Eric,
Yeah.
as far as pulling the story together. I think, again, call to action, don't go with your gut all the time. I mean, in this industry right here, your gut is going to talk to you probably at least a handful of times a day. And we talked about kind of pinpointing and swerving on a dime, right? Are we going to change what we're doing in this moment to better our tomorrow? Or are we going to stay doing what we're doing to maybe be steady Eddie and win the race, right? And in this case, it was just one of those things where having a good business partner, having a really good friend in Eric, and he and I had, we were just able to come together and say, you know what, we're going to better this guy and we're going to move on from this. And it was
Yep.
easy. It was an easy decision.
Yep.
So
lot of shed lots out there could use a little jolt, just like that. And
that's right. That's right. If you got a neighboring shed lot, it's not going to hurt you to go over and say hello. I can tell you right now, you're going to
100%.
attract a lot more flies with honey than with vinegar. I can tell you right now. I've got good relationships with manufacturers and dealers alike, pretty much nationwide at this point, that I'm an open book, man. You can ask anybody. That's how we're on this podcast to begin with. We are blessed and honored every day to walk a path that we're proud of walking. I mean, I can tell you, I'm proud of what I do every day. I love my job. I love going to work. And, every time I meet somebody, I always try to end the conversation once I meet them with, how many people in this industry have you met like me? And Eric's watched me do it. It's one of those things where a lot of times I get told no one or very few. And that's what I want. I want everybody to kind of collectively come together and say, we're going to be 1% better than we were yesterday, because being nice goes a long way. So what do you think, Eric? I mean, honestly, you've been in the industry longer than me. Neither one of us are senior citizens or anything in this industry. We're both still pretty green in a lot of ways. But I mean, you've seen more than I have.
What I can say is that the wood industry is a little more in the know. It seems like every person I've talked to knows everybody else, knows what they've been doing. It's a little bit easier to figure out the jigsaw puzzle of the wood industry. It's got trade shows too, so like you got to think there's a lot of that going on too, and it's super competitive. The metal building industry, man, over the seasons that we do, like I'm hoping to bring some light to it. So I'm like, it isn't this company's better than the next. It's really, I think customers are less informed and more reliant on the salesperson to make the decision for them or with them. But there's rarely any comment about any company. Now you go down to Mount Airy, different story. So Mount Airy is a little bit more. Oh yeah, that guy, he's worked everywhere, like that type of,
Yep.
But from a business standpoint, shed lot standpoint, you you don't get salespeople stopping by. We had you don't get salespeople stopping by. Hey, you want to get some metal bill like that? That's a thing that there's no I don't know what the word is. It's just not as deep and rooted, I would say.
I think that there's a lot more. I think
probably.
there's a lot more unknown in the steel industry. Everything in the steel industry is kind of, the end product varies so much from manufacturer to manufacturer, from state to state. The regulations are so much different in Michigan than they are in Florida, or in California than they are on the coast of North Carolina or South Carolina, something like that. So there's a lot of knowledge and product knowledge that has to go into being a top level steel and metal building salesperson. And honestly, if you're selling I-beam or you're selling tube steel, or you're selling kits, or you're selling fully assembled delivered buildings like we do, or even pole barns, I know there's a lot of people out there that are doing all kinds of different things. And it really comes down to, I think what I want to help provide the steel industry is, I know so many people in the wood space that I love and care about that are really genuinely good people. A lot of those people are listening right now, right? And I want the steel industry to have more of those people. And not that the people that are in the steel industry are bad, but I feel like there is so much confusion and everything is so kind of all over the place all the time. Um, we need to put a cap on it. We've talked about, trade association. We've talked about some sort of accountability. I think from two guys who have a team of people that are doing it right. Eric sells more buildings than anybody in the company. That is a fact. It's been a fact since day one. Even on my best day, I probably haven't sold to the extent that Eric has. I've had several exceptional months. I have had 16, 17, 18 building months. I know Eric's had several of those. When you start talking about selling 18 metal buildings in a month, it is grind time.
Yeah.
Eric and I have been on Facebook Messenger at 1:00 in the morning selling buildings to people. Not even kidding you. If you really want to take it to a next level, online marketing with steel buildings, metal buildings, consignment dealer model with sheds, you're in a great space. And if nobody's told you this week, hear it from the Steel Kings. You're in a good place. If something's going on, find a solution. Reach out to somebody at your manufacturer, your supplying partner, or whatever. But don't sit idle. Do not sit idle, man, because I'm telling you, there is so much good stuff going on in our industry. Sounds like you want to jump in, Eric. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say it. It just came to me, and I'm going to say it because it's kind of funny. But when we first started doing building sales, like we'd have like a big day, and I wanted to say, like, you know what happens when you sell 16 buildings in a month? You literally get to DoorDash your favorite Mexican food restaurant to your office,
Right.
like
That's right.
the next day.
You said it last time.
It's the little things that make you keep going,
You said it last time. So I remember the door dashing, the Five Guys. I think you guys were door dashing Five Guys. So, for those of you who've not listened, go back and check it out. But Eric started this whole thing as a youth group project, right? At the time, Eric was a youth pastor, and he starts really seeing the need for additional workforce. So he's like, well, great. What better project can I do than provide the youth at the church an outlet to come and hang out? We'll get them DoorDash Five Guys, and we can work on wood sheds and steel buildings.
It was like, hey, you. Here's $100. Go to the post office. Go pick up a stack of burgers. You're going to the bank with this bag of money, and they're like 16 years old. Like, okay, I'll be right back. And I'm like, extra cheese on my sandwich. It's all good. You guys come back, and we'll keep saying, man, it just turned into. Speaking of youth, I've got youth tonight, so I'm back in the biz there too. So
for those of you that don't
having fun at work too.
Yeah, man. I think we're gonna. So I wanted to close up today a little bit. We're gonna get long-winded. Some of these conversations we might take out to 2 and 3 part episodes, but some of them are gonna hit you right in the face. Today's call to action is: if you're a wood dealer, become a steel dealer, or at least consider it. And if you need help, reach out to Eric and I. We're happy to help. Jared at DaytonBarnes.com, Eric at DaytonBarnes.com. But I want to talk to you guys a little bit about what to expect, right? So we're on episode 3. We're still getting our feet under us. We're still learning the process. But I think one thing I wanted to do is I wanted to paint the picture. We've talked about it a little bit, but Eric and I have been in really deep discussion, thought, and prayer about what we want to do with the Steel Kings podcast. Part of that's going to be we're creating a social media outlet. We're going to be on all the social media platforms, Facebook, X, Instagram. We'll be out there, amongst you guys. We want you guys to reach out. We want you guys to comment, tag us, hashtag questions, comments, concerns. We want to know what you want to hear about. We're the open book in this, and you guys are the reader. And we want to make sure that we write chapters that you all are interested in reading, if that makes sense. We're going to do interviews. We're going to talk to guys from each one of our preferred manufacturing partners. Those will be some plugging episodes, not going to lie to you. But we're going to show you guys kind of how to do both. And from a manufacturing standpoint on the wood, we're going to talk to some wood manufacturers and some steel manufacturers. You might get a monologue from me, a half an hour, 45 minutes. You might get the same from Eric. One thing I wanted to give a shout out to, Eric, is we're going to talk to Joel next week. I don't know if you knew that yet, but we're going to bring Joel into the Steel Kings podcast. That's right. We're going to bring Joel in from J Money. We're going to talk to him a little bit, and Katie, I think. We're going to try to get both of them here.
Nice.
Just to give you guys kind of an overview,
Thankful for that, man.
Yeah, we have been friends with Joel. Eric's been friends with him longer than me. Eric, give us kind of your best overview, your best couple minutes on Joel as we prep for next week.
Joel is yes, he owns the money. Like his knowledge of like sheds, his banking, his ability to create a solution that's like, in my opinion, somewhat complicated, and he's got the right skill set. So like Joel, so the steel industry before, it's been dominated by RTO, and there really hasn't been a company out there willing to take a risk on financing these large $20,000 to $30,000 projects, 50, 60K. And so Joel walked into our life. Thank God he walked into our life, because and he was asking about RTO stuff, and we were pretty buttoned up there. And I remember, and I'll plant the seed. We'll just go into depth about it next time. But he said, well, what is it? We were charismatic and kind of was jiving. And he said, well, what is a need that you guys have? I said, dude, if you could finance a $30,000 project, for us with decent monthly payments, I'll sell you $1 million. I mean, it will never end. Just bring it, and that was a year before he came back to us with the answer to that. And so we stayed in touch a little bit, and man, we'll dive into the story about how and what that looks like, and let him kind of touch on it. But man, he kept us in mind, and so we keep him in mind too. And man, he got us some golf tournament tickets in Columbus, and traveled with. Man, I was in Texas with him, rolling around. So I've been on some trips with the guy. I went to North Carolina with the guy. I've been in boardrooms with high level profile people, and he's just a great guy. He's a good advocate for Dayton Barnes, and
we cannot thank him enough.
Say enough about him.
We cannot thank him enough for being the studio sponsor for this podcast. The whole reason that we're able to do this right now and talk to all of you and have a platform. Shout out to Shannon over at Shed Geek. Shout out to Joel over at the J Money team. We've been partners with the guy. We've been friends with the guy. Now we're kind of getting into advocacy, and we are going to be kind of a profound speaker on the behalf of the J Money brand. It has absolutely revolutionized our business and what we do here on a day-to-day. And we've been able to help our friends revolutionize their business doing the same thing. And I'm excited to talk to him, because we have a really deep dive story to tell you all about. It's about friendship. It's about staying true to yourself. It's about really taking advantage. And again, Eric, I met Eric when he sold me a metal building. And now all these years later, we're on a podcast together called the Steel Kings. And we've got I'm so thankful for the team that we have here, and all the opportunities that we've been blessed with. I can't tell you. I want you to think about this. I want you to be excited to hear the story. So Eric will attest to this. Eric will absolutely tell you, Jared Ledford does not miss work. Jared Ledford goes to work every day. He loves going to work. The one day that Jared Ledford was sick, and I mean sick, bro. I was sick, was the day that Jared, Eric, and Joel had to drive one day there and back to North Carolina from Ohio. And Jared was dying in the front seat while Eric was speeding to North Carolina. And I think Joel might have been holding on to the seat bottom in the back. I think we were all over it. So, I mean, we're going to talk about a 12-hour journey that cemented our friendship with, frankly, we were talking to one of the biggest metal building manufacturers in the United States. I felt like I got ran over by a freight train. I don't know what was wrong with me. And these two guys pulled me through, and we had a great meeting, right? I mean, we did great.
We had a great meeting. We hit the mountains, and he said, play that old rock. You play that song that we play. He said, out of nowhere, he's like, you know what? I think this moment is let's put on that song. West Virginia. You know that.
Yeah. Take Me Home Country Roads by John Denver.
Take Me Home Country Home by John
And I
Denver.
think John Denver. Yeah, I think I was dying in the front seat by the time. So another little tidbit about me for those of you who don't know,
Car
I get
sickness.
sick. I get car sick right now. So we're going to talk about a lot of things. I'm gonna plant another seed for another car story because Eric and I did a
Oh
journey.
man.
We flew from Ohio to Phoenix, Arizona. We had a store there. And it's another long story. We're gonna have so much
Drove
fun because
24
once
hours.
we get once we get unbuttoned
Oh my
and we start to
gosh.
really loosen up and become the Steel Kings for you guys, there's some nerves. I'm not gonna lie to you. We're on a pretty strict schedule, and I'll tell you, if Eric and I could just sit down and podcast all day, we would love it. So, but right now we are in laser focused mode, like all of you. We are getting ready for that spring sales season. We're going to wrap up today. I'm going to do the call to action, right? If you're sitting idly by, get off your butt and start moving, right? Get into game mode because right now you're listening to us and it's the third or fourth week in March. It is time to start selling. And if you've got an issue, don't wait till July to address it because by that time you're going to look up and it's going to be October and it's going to be wintertime and you're going to
That's
be
right.
like, where'd my busy season go? You have got to get up off your butt and start moving. Eric, you got anything on the way out this week, brother?
No, man, I'm super excited for Joel's podcast and the next one. We've got one. We didn't mention who it was coming, but man, super excited about that one too. It is middle of March, man. Look, post ads, be real, go on live, share your story, man. It's going to work out. And then hit Jared and I up if you guys have a question about metal buildings, man. You just maybe just want to do a Q&A session with us. We're not shy. We will point you in the right direction. So
That's right. That's right.
Many blessings for you guys in sales in March and April.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Stay safe, my friends. We will catch you next week on the Steel Kings podcast. Again, we are talking to the man, the myth, the legend, the J Money himself, Joel M. Oney. So for all of you that don't know, that's how we get J Money. So Eric, I'm out, brother. How about you? Have a great week, my man. And we'll talk to you guys soon. Later on, guys.
Before you go, the J Money team wants to thank you for listening to today's Steel Kings podcast. Remember, money is king. If you need a financing option on your portable wood sheds or steel buildings, we are here to help. Just check out jmoneyllc.com for more information. Don't forget to catch the next episode. We'll still be here. Have a great day.